Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you do not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, "All these I will give to you, if you will fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil left him, and suddenly the angels came and waited on him. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. Grace and peace to you on this day from God our Father and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Scarcity, security, success. These are the three temptations from the wilderness. Scarcity, security, and success. These are the things that we face as we enter this time of Lent. Scarcity, security, and success. The lies that the world continues to send us. The thing about scarcity is we believe it. I would define scarcity like this, that I need to get mine before you get yours. And we live that way. Security I would define as I need to keep what's mine so you don't get it. We live that way too. And success, there's lots of ways to define success, but I think I would define it like this, is you have what I don't, and I would like that. And so I'm going to do everything to compare myself to you and to see where I am in comparison. There's a lot of problems with scarcity, security, and success as much as we have bought into it completely. When we live in a place of scarcity, we start to be suspicious of everybody else, right? We never quite relate to people on a real level because we're always kind of worried about what their motivations might be, especially if we're in constant competition with one another for the limited resources we believe there are in the world. When we live our lives by security, it can only really lead to fear. I mean, it's about being afraid, right? You don't want to lose what you got. And so you start to look at other people as perhaps even the enemy. And the thing about success is if you've attained some, you feel pretty good. But if you don't, well, you don't. But you're always thinking you don't quite measure up, right? It's a little bit, you yourself don't feel like you measure up, and you feel like everyone's judging you. At the same time, you start blaming other people for why you don't have certain things the way that you believe you should, be entitled to them. And it plays itself out. It plays itself out in this story. So Jesus is in the desert, the wilderness, the barren place for a long time, 40 days, 40 nights. That's Bible talk for he was there a while. And he's in there and he's hungry, and the first temptation comes. It's a scarcity temptation, right? You're starving. Get some food. You can do that, can't you, Jesus? And then the second one is a security question. I'll take you right up to the top of the temple, God's holy place. If you throw yourself down, that's not going to let anything happen to you, right? You're supposed to be the chosen one. And the last one about success. All the kingdoms of the world. I wonder how much easier Jesus would have had it if he just did that. I wonder for ourselves if we think the same thing. If we just kind of insert ourselves into the world with a little bit more ambition, maybe we could make a bigger difference. It's a real temptation, isn't it? We have a better story than this. And Jesus embodies that. Instead of scarcity and security and success, what Jesus reveals is abundance and generosity and sacrifice, probably even sacrificial love. This same Jesus who was in the wilderness for these 40 days and 40 nights, when he's teaching and with people, and they've been with him all day and are hot and tired and hungry, and somebody presents their lunch for the day, he feeds them all. Multitudes, over 5,000. And there's leftovers. There's a ton of leftovers. It's amazing. We look at this world around us and we think, oh my gosh, it's collapsing and there's not everything's going to pot, but look around. It's a beautiful world we live in. And God gives it to us. That we would have more than we could ever need. Not just stuff and not just money, but relationships and the creation itself. The universe ever expanding in every direction, constantly. Bigger than the speed of light. That's a lot of things we can enjoy and be thankful for. Abundance. Jesus is generous. He's generous with his time. He's generous with his words. He's generous with his interactions. He's generous with God's forgiveness, which drives his people that are against him nuts, right? He's crazy about including people and making them feel like they're part of what's going on. Incredibly generous with forgiveness and mercy and love for us. This is a great story. Now, I shared this at the annual meeting, so some of you have heard it before, but it's worth repeating, and it's worth learning for yourself and sharing again, because it's a good story. So it was a few weeks ago now, but I was in the office, and one of our people came in and wanted to tell me about that her car insurance rate had gone up, and she wasn't quite sure what she was going to do about that. On a fixed income, trying to make things work, was worried about it, anxious, quite genuinely. So I was listening to that. I was trying to think, okay, what could we do to help her maybe? And then she said, but I called him back, and I let him have it. And I talked it right back down to what I was paying before. I thought, hey, good job, way to go. That's what this story was about, right? Just saying that things worked out. Cool, love it. And then she handed me a check for the difference, saying, well, I thought I was going to not have this money anyway, and I can make it work, and I figured the church could do more with it than me, so here you go. Awesome. Awesome. Amazing. Generosity. And sacrifice over security. And against our competition of what it means to succeed. We want success. We have a 3-bedroom house with 1 bedroom and 1-car garage. If you have 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a 2-car garage, according to the world, you win. According to the person that lives in an apartment, I win, I guess. And according to the person that has 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms and multiple garages, or maybe a retreat place too, you lose. I mean, it's all relative, right? And we always want what we don't have. But Jesus shows us a different way of living, and a different way of dying. I mean, we're coming into this time of Lent, This time where we are to prepare ourselves for the story that unfolds as Jesus will eventually be betrayed and handed over and will suffer and will die. And we are invited into that. Not just the gift of what that means for our salvation and for our faith and for God's mercy on us, but it's done in love. It's done in love. One of the great theologians of the church, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was at work in Germany in the 30s and died in a concentration camp shortly before the war ended in 45. He wrote that famous book, Discipleship, or you might know it as The Cost of Discipleship. He wrote, when Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me, what he meant is come die with me. But he didn't mean it, I don't think what Bonhoeffer meant is as a downer. I mean, this is about loving people. It's about giving ourselves over for the sake of others in the same way that Jesus gives himself up for us. It's out of love. It's out of compassion for this world. It's out of that same abundance and generosity that God shows us by giving us Jesus in the first place. Scarcity, security, success, or a better story, abundance, generosity, and sacrifice. Somebody that we all know pretty well, or at least a lot of us do, Paul Lutz, our good friend. He wrote this week on Facebook. This may sound like a lot of work. It is. Being a Christian is not easy. I apologize if no one ever told you that before. Claiming your identity as a child of God in a world of darkness and lies is a challenging way to live. Storing up for ourselves treasures in heaven when the world is always beckoning at your door with easy solutions is no day at the beach. Making decisions based on the needs of others, putting aside your agenda for the betterment of the community, letting go of what was for what will be, is not second nature to us. And yet that is the call that we have, to follow Jesus. We started watching this show this weekend on Netflix. It's called The Kindness Diaries. Has anyone seen this? By a guy named Leon Legalith, I think is his last name. He decided what he was going to do is he kind of left the corporate world. And then he said, I'm going to travel around the world, but I'm going to do it in a different way. I'm going to do it by completely depending on the generosity of others. So he had a knapsack, and he had his camera crew, which I think is probably just one guy, and his yellow motorcycle. He said, I'm not going to take any money, I'm not going to take any food, I'm not going to take anything along. I'm just going to go meet people and see where I can go. And everybody told him he couldn't do it, that he would fail, that he'd wind up in a bad spot, that he might even wind up dead, right? I mean, who knows? I've only seen one episode of this. There's 10. But already in the first episode, he lives in LA. He met somebody, this gentleman at the gas station who gave him gas, and he told him about his project, and he said what a great idea this was, and he wished him well, almost kind of blessed him in a real way. And then he drove east, and he stopped in Las Vegas, and he met this guy who gave him some sunflower seeds because he hadn't eaten all day. And then talking with him some more, the same man invited him over to his house to have dinner and eventually gave him the couch to sleep on that night and filled his gas again. The next day he drove east again and was in some small town in Colorado and got very nervous at first because he didn't really see people walking around the street like you do in a big city. And the people that he did run into were a little standoffish. So he ended up in the Chamber of Commerce, and they called this couple who took him in. And he had some trouble with his motorcycle too, so it was going to be a couple of days before they left. But they really invited him into their lives. They brought lunch over to this elderly woman who lives in their neighborhood, who they take care of basically, and really treated it as this is our calling. This is what we do. We take care of the people around us. They told their story of faith, of going to a Billy Graham rally years ago, and how that changed them, and how they were trying to live their life for others, even at their own personal expense, and the things that they weren't able to do as a result, like go to their son's wedding, which was going to happen in England later that year. And he experienced all of these wondrous acts of generosity and kindness and genuine humanity against the temptations of scarcity and security and success. And then, I mean, there's a little disingenuous to it, I think, because he does have some means. It's not like he was totally on his own. But he decided in response, and again, nobody knew this ahead of time, what he would do is he kind of called back home and said, I'm going to make sure that you can get to your son's wedding. And the last scene of the show, sorry, spoiler alert. I know, sorry, Andy. It's pictures of the wedding. I just thought, all right, that's cool. That's cool. It's hard. Following Jesus is hard. And it's a different story than the one the world gives us. But it is a story that leads to meaning, and it leads to purpose, and it leads to connections in ways we never thought possible, all out of that same abundance and generosity and sacrificial love of God first given to us in Jesus. And so as we start this Lenten journey for ourselves again this year, as we make our way to the cross yet again, and yes, once again to the glory of Easter, we start with one step forward, where we enter a new world to live. Amen.